Welcome to HR After Dark. I'm Marcia.
And I'm Meghan.
And tonight we are going to be diving into the HR stigma. We're dispelling myths and misconceptions about HR.
By the way, I like your outfit.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Why do we do this to each other?
We do this every day.
Yep.
We roll into the office and I'm like, did you see me get dressed?
No. No, I just automatically, I have osmosis. I know exactly what you're going to wear. So then I wear it. I figured, well, we're twins.
Yeah, this was not planned, obviously.
No,
but I like it. Yeah.
But I'm not wearing jeans. I'm wearing actually black.
I know.
A little different.
Yeah, I'm a little more casual
I
today.
almost did. I have a lunch today, so I decided to get dressed up.
Yeah, I get it. I love this topic.
I know you do. I know why. I'll tell people why.
Yeah, I think it's when you think about HR, it is a misconception of people who are paper pushers, and it's black and white and rule enforcers, which is, of course, all valuable things at businesses, but it's so much more than that. And so I think this story that I want to share, when I first started working with you in 2016, we met at Starbucks. I came home after my meeting with you, and we met for like 4 hours. And I went home to Joe and I said, I have a huge problem. I loved Marcia, but I don't really like HR. And I had not had the exposure to a successful and really excellent HR function in the past. So I thought of it as one way in my head, of course.
As most people do.
And so I wanted to take a chance. And now, after all this time, meeting really dynamic HR professionals, it has been a game changer, and I love HR.
Yeah.
So that was it was definitely a stereotype, which I'm not the only one who thinks of it that way.
No.
So
not at all.
Thinking about HR, what are some other stereotypes that you've noticed?
Well, I think going into HR, unfortunately, there's a misconception that it's sometimes where they place people that don't fit other places in the organization, and they'll put them in HR. They're like, well, we'll just put them in HR. And when I hear that, I just shiver, because to me, I feel as if you have the HR team, you basically have glue. Yeah. And the really good HR person can be your literally glue for the company. Now, what I don't like is I've heard people basically, I'm in charge of retention. I'm like, why would HR be in charge of retention? That is a company objective, not an individual objective. And unfortunately, HR gets the bad rap on a lot of things because, finance and HR has never got along, because they look at HR as a spending opportunity versus it's like, if you do HR right, it's not a spending opportunity. It's actually creating value opportunity. And I truly believe that. But I think we have to just make sure that we're out there, we're advocating for really strong HR people, training them and teaching them the right way, and having them feel comfortable having a seat at the table. Yeah. But that takes a few more things. They should know operations. They should know a little bit more about how the company makes money. And basically every decision they have should tie into basically the benefits and the opportunities of the company.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think one of the best things that HR professionals can do is find a seat at that table, become a decision maker. But a little bit of a controversial thought right here. What do you think an HR leader should do with the talent acquisition function? Do you think they should be, now that we're in 2024, as HR and the workplaces are changing, do you think they should be the same leader at businesses? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, you're tugging on my heart, because people that know me, know I love talking about talent strategy and how to do talent the right way. And ironically enough, I do believe they should be separate. I think both of them should have a seat at the table, because to me, HR is definitely about, working with people and succession planning and performance reviews and helping get the right benefits and making someone feel very comfortable at work and moving on to their next level and career mapping. But recruiting is almost between like sales and marketing. It's basically bringing those people on board. It's almost like bringing the new product, but it's human product, coming into a company, and then working with sales and marketing of how to get out there. Because I don't understand why people don't really emphasize recruiting. If you're going to put somebody very junior on a recruiting role, and it's like you're looking for a controller, that person is that first experience that controller is going to talk to. So why would you not basically have somebody that knows what they're doing, is passionate about the company, moves things forward, understands all the back ends and all? That is so important, because then that controller is going to feel like we know what we're doing.
Yep.
And I can't stress it enough. We talk about this all the time. If your onboarding isn't strong from day one, the first time a recruiter reaches out to you, to that person gets in that seat, and 90 days later, you got to do some work. And I know we do a lot of onboarding out here too at the O'Connor Group, but I'm really, very passionate about it. Like, it has to flow. It has to make it look smooth and simple. And I can't tell you how many times I hear saying that practice was so long, this was so arduous, this was painful. That tells me that your internal operations are that way too.
Yep.
So that's why I tell people, I'm like, you get that whole system smooth and organized. What happens is they become your mini marketers. They go out there, they talk to more people about it, and next thing you know, it's like Fabergé Organics, and they tell two people, and they tell two people, and next thing you know, you're going to have these great resumes applying for your roles because you took good care of them.
Yeah. So you're saying, that someone should be leading the talent acquisition function and the strategy. Somebody should be leading HR, and those people should be working as a team.
Absolutely.
Rather than reporting up into HR.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing recruiting for a long time. I've been in the HR world for almost 30 years. I truly believe they should be two separate seats.
Yeah.
Because I do believe it's really important to do all that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that also comes with HR is like the element of surprise with employees. When HR is getting involved, an employee shouldn't be surprised. So I think that's one thing that managers can do a better job of, is understanding HR. Because, if they're working with their teammates and making sure that everything is running smoothly as leaders on their team, that, HR shouldn't come in as the bad guy. HR should be a partner to you. And I think that's one thing that's also kind of gets a bad rap in the market. Yeah.
I always made it a point to make sure that finance was my friend. And because I do believe that you should really be talking together. I mean, it comes down to HR really has to do with dollars with people. I mean, your payroll is number one expense usually, right?
Yeah.
Your second is benefits, and that has to do with money. And so to me, it's really important that you become really tight with your finance people, and then have that kumbaya there. But you have to respect each other and what you bring to the table.
Yep.
And
Makes
I think
sense.
once you understand that and have the right people in those places, magic happens. And I tell people all the time, if your operations are strong in a company, your whole company flows really well. But I really do believe your HR needs to know what they're doing too.
Yep.
And you also you have to believe in yourself out there and be able to speak up too, because sometimes I think finance will want to take that conversation over.
Yeah.
You have to speak up,
Yeah.
and have that and be happy that you have that place at the table. We've earned it.
Yep. So we have clients that are entrepreneurs. We have family-run businesses. We have small, middle market, larger corporations. We have everything. One thing that I'm noticing a trend in is that person that gets sent to be leading HR with no HR background, which is okay if they want to provide training and professional development for these people. But, if they don't have that HR background, what are some ways that they can grow as HR professionals within the company?
I think you just have to ask questions and say, can I shadow you? Can I get a certification? I mean, there's so many certifications right now out there. They want to do it. But the thing about HR is you just can't be taught it by going to school for it.
Yeah.
You have to sort of just live it and be in the process with it. Listen, when I started recruiting, I remember I said, well, this is great. I'm in recruiting now. I came from accounting and now I'm in recruiting. Now what do I do? And literally my boss got 50 resumes, threw them on my desk and said, start reading. And I said, okay. And so I would go on the train, I would read them. Back then I would circle everything. You don't do that today, but you circle everything on the resumes.
With a red pen.
And I wanted to hear what was happening, how to do things better, what to do with everything. And you know what? It worked out. It worked out really, really well. And ironically enough, I felt as if I learned it, and I learned quickly. And my first offer, I'll never forget. My very first offer, I was so nervous to basically extend an offer because I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so with all that, I felt like, okay, let me go through this again and again. So I would I would record myself. Back then it was, a tape recorder.
Like a voice tape recorder?
Yes, a voice tape recorder.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I know. And I would record myself to basically how it was coming across. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. I was accurate and all too. And I didn't mess up because I didn't know how to negotiate. I didn't know how to do all those different things, but I learned over time. And one of the things I think was great, like I brought you on board and I'd have you come with me to sales meetings.
Oh, yeah.
You got to get them dirty. You got to get them out there. And you can't expect an HR person to always know all the answers.
Yep.
And that's another misconception too. People think automatically, well, you're HR, you should know the answer. They don't know everything.
I know.
Just like you don't know everything.
Yep.
And so to me, I feel it's like give them some slack there and they're learning as they go along. But, it's surrounding themselves with other HR professionals too, to make sure that they have a group to go to ask questions.
Yeah. Remember the one client that we had who was a family-owned business, entrepreneur, really smart and fast growth company, but he said his wife does their HR and there was some conflict. Do you remember that scenario where, maybe they didn't have the best, grip on what was happening inside the business? Yeah. And so what kind of advice can you give companies like that may have some, family members leading the HR function?
Well, we have a lot of clients that are CEOs. We have a lot of clients that are 100 employees or less. And so a lot of times the CEOs will say to me, I'm just going to use my wife for HR. And I will push back and say, do you sure you want to do that? And number one, do you want to stay married? Number two, are you really sure you want to do this because of the fact that they don't really know as much HR as you think? And unfortunately, what they don't realize, having a wife as HR, like your employees will never tell you what's really going on because it's the wife of the guy who basically pays your paycheck.
Yeah.
And so I always try to tell people, like, please don't do that ever. It really will backfire. In this one instance, it did backfire. And we came in and said, you sure you want to do that? And he's like, no, that's what I want to do. He wanted to save probably $1, right? Keep the cash inside the house, which just happens a lot out there. I get it. Unfortunately, they had another location that they had gotten an audit notice from basically the FSLA, and come in and they ignored it. They're like, oh, this is no big deal, yada yada. Well, they ignored it improperly, and they came back and said, hey, because you ignored us, we're now going to audit your entire facility and all your locations. Yeah. And so when they did that, they did come in and audit the entire thing. And because she didn't know what she was really doing, she talked to the auditors, and then he goes, is there any other payroll registers we need to know about? And she's like, oh, you mean, oh, no, but we do have, what about those 10 people we have? And he's like, what do you mean about the 10 people? He goes, well, the 10 people we pay by check.
No.
Yeah, 10 people by check for 10 years.
I remember that call.
Yeah.
And
I said, oh boy. And so that brought up a whole new issue because she was just doing what she thought was right, not knowing, obviously that wasn't really legal as it was, but she didn't know.
Yeah.
She couldn't say anything. She couldn't bring on that stuff up. So it just, stuff like that just really gets concerning after a while. You know what I mean?
It's scary. I think I had this thought that HR was policies and procedures, signing, making sure that everything is going in one direction. But really, that's the reactionary actions of HR when it could be so much more proactive if you do it right.
Yeah.
Making sure that the second that an employee comes into your business, they feel engaged. Yep. They feel like they have a place.
Yes.
And, finding out what everybody loves and having something for everyone.
Oh, yeah. I think, an HR, listen, it's turning into where HR needs to be like, apparently they think HR can fix everything and do everything and everything else and all too. And I'm like, it's not about that. It's truly more so about the fact that, they can do what they can do, but they had to have themselves surrounded by people that know how to answer other questions. Yeah. And I think it's a false expectation. If you think that, one person's going to know everything, like think again, that's not fair to that person. Yeah. But give them the time to learn it or to find other people that know the answer.
I remember when, before I joined you, when I would see HR come down the hallway, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. Because that was a scary thought at the time. Yeah. Now I'm like, no, HR is cool. Like we're cool. We're cool HR. And I think that's one thing that if I could say anything and give advice to anyone, that look beyond what your thoughts and the myths around HR are. Yeah. Because if you have the right person, they should be the glue of your entire company.
Yes, I know. And it's so simple, but it's not so simple.
I know.
Because sometimes, you have people that won't let them do what they really do best at. And that's a shame, because there's some great HR people out there that are amazing at what they do.
Yep.
Just let them go, let them fly, let them take good care of your company, but don't expect them to know everything. The expectation out there, when I had heard, she goes, well, I'm in charge of retention. I'm like, no, you're not. Why would you be in charge of retention? That is a company issue, not a you issue. And I said, I'm just very adamant of how basically people should be treated the right way and fairly.
Sure.
And I also think HR over the years has gotten a horrible rap. And, COVID was horrible to so many people. And I got to tell you, though, for the HR side of the house, COVID made HR cool. Yeah. All of a sudden now we became a very important seat at the table. All of a sudden they came to us about asking all these questions. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you're listening to us. Now you need HR.
Yep.
And so that's when we exploded, because everybody's like, I need HR now. So it was interesting to see how horrible it was, but how it also shined a good light on the world of HR and why it's so important.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I think that's, as we wrap up this amazing topic, which I'm sure is going to come into a lot of our other discussions, is advocate for yourself and for your business to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
You should know your numbers. You should have data behind, what's happening within the company from an employee standpoint, and also being able to look in the future, what could be coming down the road. And then, that data will help you have even more respect from the rest of the executive leaders.
Yeah. And get to know your finance team. It sounds crazy. Go in their offices, sit down, say, hey, let's do lunch today.
Yep.
Number one, they're going to shock them to death, by the way. Okay. Because they don't typically do lunch. Most accountants don't.
Yeah.
But the idea of just that you want to set up a time with them and talk about how they add value. They just want to be heard and listened to as well. It's not about fighting each side of the department.
Yeah.
It's really getting to know each other and how we're working together as a team for the company.
Yep.
And I think once you start doing that, I always make relationships with the accounting sides, but I could also talk accounting, but I always it's so important that I respect you, but you also respect me.
Yep.
And we work together as a team. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there about HR, but it is a wonderful field to be in. It is a hard field to be in. It's not an easy field.
Yep.
People think automatically they're just going to put anybody in that role. That is not the case. You should put somebody who really knows what they're doing and are very passionate behind it.
Yep.
But you know what? Give them the slack that they need too, because we're constantly learning. There's constantly news rules right now. All the states are turning into their own countries right now.
Yep.
And, now there's city, there's local tax, there's all these new things that we're responsible to be told.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stay on top of that. So really have some kind of a group that you're working with out there to keep you on top of all this stuff, because it's challenging and it's hard enough to basically be that counselor sometimes to your own employees. But you got to stay on top of all the rules and regulations, which is hard enough right now.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. Any final thoughts?
No, but I would say if you're in HR and you want to do it, keep on doing it. I hear about I want to help people. I get all that, but it's going to be more than that. It's going to be basically helping people, but also helping the company and helping them be successful and making sure the employees basically feel engaged, encouraged, enlightened at a company. But it's not just you, it's working with the other teammates that you have there to make it all together, because that core is so important. And I just think that you should set up a core group in your own company with all your leaders to make sure how can we basically really help our employees become better, more fiscally sound, responsible, but also too just be happy in their jobs.
Yep. I think this is a great topic. I'm so glad that we talked about this. I feel like it's going to flow into a lot more of our conversations.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yes,
and
thank you.
We will see you on our next episode of HR After Dark.